Hey guys, this is Mitch with FinePoint CGI, and today we're going to talk about how to import photos using the Android camera and also how to import photos using the Android gallery. Now, this was a viewer request, and we're going to start by importing our plugin, and then we're going to go ahead and hook it up, and then we're going to set it up so we can select from a gallery. And then we're going to set it up so we can import from a camera, and then we're going to round it out with some custom options that you can use to like enforce specific size by loading it at a specific size or a specific resolution. And that's pretty much what I have in store for you guys today. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so the first thing that you're going to need to do is you are going to need to grab the Godot Get Image plugin for Android. Now, this was created by a person named LameLinks on GitHub, and I'll leave a link in the description below that'll kind of show you where this is. And in here, he has this nice little README, or she has this nice README here, and it tells you basically, hey, how to install it, how to generate the AAR if you need it, and what the plugin API is. So things like getting the gallery image, getting multiple images, getting camera images, or hey, getting permission and setting up like the image height and things like that. And it also talks about what signals that you can hook up to. So like if the requested image gets completed, you can hook it up to pull that image in and display it for the user. So the first thing that we're going to need to do is we're going to need to download this. So let's go ahead and click on the download button and click download zip. Now I've already downloaded this, but normally you would click save, hit OK, and then so we're going to go ahead and extract it. And I already have done that here, and it's going to have a folder inside of it. So go ahead and go into that, and you're going to have a Godot Get Image plugin release section here. So we're going to open that up, and you will see that there are a bunch of zip files here. Now, I've already extracted it for my engine's version, which is 3.23. If you have a newer version than this, you're going to need to probably compile it, providing that he hasn't already done that for you. But if you double click on this, you will see that there's an AAR and a GDAP file. Now, what these two files are, I've covered this in previous videos, but if you if you haven't watched those videos, what the GDAP file is, it's instructions for the Godot Android plugin, and it gives Godot instructions on what this plugin needs for dependencies and what it needs for system information like name and things like that. And what is an AAR file? An AAR file is an Android archive resource file, or at least that's what I believe it's called. And basically, it's just your Android plugin. If you want to know more about these things, I actually have a video about how to create your own Android plugin, and I will link it in the description below for you, and also, providing that I remember, in the upper right-hand corner. All right, so now that we have these two extracted, let's go ahead and create our Godot project. So I'm going to go ahead and open up Godot, and you'll see it pops up. And we're going to create a new project, and we're going to call it Get Image from Gallery Demo, because I am very creative with names. So we're going to go ahead and create and edit, and you'll notice that it's pretty large on my screen. So let me resize this for you guys. I record in a 2K monitor, so it's a little bit on the large size. So there we go. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add in a 2D scene. And we are going to add in a child node. We're going to put a button for this demo purpose. And we're going to just make it, I don't know, about this big, let's say. And we'll call this Get Image. And we are going to go over here, right click, add child node, and put in a texture. Rect. And we will put that down below as well. So now that we have these two, let's go ahead and save, because it's always important to make sure that you save your progress all of the time, because you have no idea how many times I've had stuff crash on me, and it's become a thing. I've had to re-record a lot of hours. All right, let's call it demo scene. .tscn. And now what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and install the Android build system. Now, what the Android build system is, or the Android build template is, it's basically just the template that Godot uses to build Android from scratch. So go ahead and click on that, hit yep, I want to go ahead and install this, and you'll see that it's going to install this. Now, what did this actually do? Well, if we right click on our RES and we go to open in file manager, you will see that we have an Android folder here. Now, if we go ahead and open that up and then open up plugins, you'll see that this folder is empty. Conveniently, it's just the right kind of thing we need for our plugin here. So we'll just go ahead and copy that. We're going to go ahead and paste that in, and then we'll click out here and you'll see that this folder, or we'll click back into Godot and you'll see that this folder here now has a plugins directory. So if you click on project and set up your export, so click on export and then click add Android, what you will see is now we can now export to Android, right? And we want to use a custom build, so that's right here. And use custom build allows us to use that Android template that we installed. So we'll go ahead and hit on, and you'll see in our plugins, because we copied the file, the plugin file, into the plugins directory here, that has shown our new Get Image plugin. So we'll go ahead and turn that on as well. All right, so now that we have this working, what we're going to do is we're going to add a script to our Node 2D. So we'll attach a script. We'll call this demo get image controller. I always like to create controllers when I do my code or when I do my design. I always prefer to use controllers over top of just calling it something, right? To me, a controller is something that controls that specific function of, I guess, the application, if that makes sense. So we're going to call this a get demo or demo get image controller, and we will create that. So you'll see that this is the default script that they give us. Like I said, save often. So I just hit Control S for us. And what we're going to do is we're first going to check if we have that singleton. So engine dot has underscore single ton singleton, and we need it to make sure that it has the Godot get image plugin. Now the question is, and I need to put a semicolon here, the question is, how do we know what this is, right? How do we know that it's called Godot get image? Well, if I go ahead and I open up this plugin file, you will see that if I pull this over for you, you'll see here inside of my Visual Studio, we have Godot get image. That's the name that we want to make sure we search for. That's how we know that this name and that, and I guess, let me drag this back over. Oh. So this name and this name need to match. See that? All right. So now that we have that, what we need to do is say, hey, if that's the case, right, we want to do var image plugin is equal to engine dot get singleton, and then we're going to say, hey, go ahead and get the Godot get image. All right, and then what we also want to do is, all right, so now we need to hook up our button to call some code, right? Because when we click this button, our plan, right, is when we click this button, it's going to go ahead and ask for the gallery application to pop up and show all of your pictures. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on node, button up, And let's call this get underscore gallery selection. And I'm always doing capital S because I do a lot of C#, so excuse me for that. And we'll make sure that we have our node 2D selected. So you'll see that here's our get gallery selection, right? So what we're trying to say is we have our signal attached to that button. So every time we press it, this code will be running. So what we need to do is we need to go out and call that plugin. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, hey, if image plugin, right? If that exists, then we want to go image plugin dot get gallery image. All right, but you see that we have this issue where it says identifier image plugin isn't declared in the current scope. Well, that's because we declared it here. And actually what we need to do is we need to declare it outside of that function. So var image, whoops, not capital I, img plugin. All right, and then we can say image plugin is equal to engine.getSingleton Godot get image. And you can say, hey, if this has the singleton, then go ahead and get the gallery image. All right, and then I'm going to say else, we're going to print button worked, but plugin isn't loaded. So now if I go ahead and I hit play, you'll see that when I press this, you'll see button worked, but plugin isn't loaded. And that's because plugins don't work unless you run it on Android, because it needs to be compiled into the Android subsystem. So now if we look at the documentation here and we scroll down a little bit, you'll see that he has some signals here. Image request completed. Let's go ahead and hook up to that, because we're going to need to hook up to that so that way we can load the image from that request, right? When we go request out to the user saying, hey, you know, like we need this specific data, right? We need to go ahead and get the image. The user needs to pick it, and then we need to get that return value. And like I said, if you want more information about that, you can check out my how to create your own Android plugins tutorial. So the way that you, if we go back into Godot, the way that you hook up a plugin is if we come back up to this if ready, right? Because we want to hook it up here. So go with image plugin dot connect, and then we want to connect it to image underscore request underscore completed, and then we need to pass in an object. So when you're doing signal connections, you can pass in any object. So I could pass in like the button object, right? I'm gesturing with my hands like you can see me. You can like hook it up with the button or the text direct, right? But in this case, I want to call a function inside of my controller, because to me, the controller kind of runs everything, right? So I'm going to pass in self, and then we need to tell it a function that it can run. So if we go ahead, go down here and go func and say, you know, underscore set image, let's say. Now the reason, if you're curious about how I go about how I determine all of these things, I actually do underscores if it's a signal, and or if it's an engine thing, and if it's not an engine thing and it's just like me making a function that's going to be used, I do it with camel case. That's how I've always done it. But now if we go ahead and let's see, what did I call it? Set image underscore or quote underscore set underscore image, I believe. Yep. Now, one thing that we need to know is when it returns, it's going to return a group of blocks, right? It's going to return a bunch of objects. And he details that out in here with a pool byte array. So it's a dictionary of a pool byte arrays. So we're going to need to return that dictionary. So if we go back, we'd put in the dictionary as dict, because that's just standard. So we're going to need to loop through the dictionary that comes back, and each separate object in the dictionary is an image. So you could do multiple images in theory, right? So first things first, we need to loop through that dictionary. So let's do for image in dict.values var current image is equal to image.new. So what we're doing is we're creating a new image. So think of it kind of like this. What we're doing is we're taking this and we're actually building a image from the ground up. So think of it kind of like a, if you take a picture, right? You have to create that image and then fill that image with data, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to say print, quote, loading image. So what we need to do next is we need to yield. And what yield does is it activates Godot's coroutine system. Now, a coroutine is a component execution that does almost like a subroutine. So it's not quite running like an additional thread, but what it's doing is it's allowing you to multitask. So you can actually suspend or resume this execution, if that makes sense. And what we're going to say is we need you to get a tree. So get underscore tree. And then we need to add in the idle frame. So what this does is it gets the tree of Godot's execution. And what an idle frame is, it's a signal that fires after a game frame has passed. So after the game has refreshed the page once, the screen one time, then it will fire off this code, right? So think of it kind of like this. What we're doing is we're saying, hey, get tree, which is the Godot execution engine, basically. And we're saying, hey, look for the idle frame signal. And then once that signal gets fired, then continue the code. Does that make sense? I'll continue like you said yes. So var texture is equal to image texture dot new. So what we're doing is we're creating a new image texture. So think of it kind of like when you create a material inside of Godot. The image texture is the texture that makes something look like wood or things like that. So now texture dot create underscore from underscore image, and we need to pass in our current image, comma 0, because we are starting from the 0 index. And now what we need to do is we need to grab our texture rect here. So we're going to do, so it looks like we have a little compiler error here. We actually need to tab that in one, and that should, there we go. That'll solve that. I was sitting here wondering why I wasn't auto-completing. I'm like, what's going on here? So we hit $texture rect dot texture is equal to texture. So now that we got all of this, right now, none of this is doing anything, right? So what we've done, let me run through it real quick. We've created a new image. We are waiting until our next frame. We're creating a new texture, and we're saying, hey, take our current image, which we just created, and set it at index 0 and create a texture, and then setting our texture. Now, all this is well and good, but we're going to run into a slight problem because we haven't loaded it from our image. Our current image is just a new blank black image, so it's not actually going to do anything. So what we need to do is we need to say current image dot load JPEG from buffer, because we want to load a JPEG from the image that they gave us. Now you could do it as PNG, which would give you transparency. So if you're looking to do transparency, load it as a PNG. If you're not looking to do transparency, load it as a JPEG. Both work. It just depends on what you're trying to pull from. And now let's load it as image. All right. So that should pretty much do it. So what we're going to do is we will save, and we are going to go ahead and plug in our Android phone and give it a whirl. All right, so now that I got my phone plugged in, you'll notice that up here, there is a little Android icon. Now, the reason why that exists is because I have ADB installed and I also have debugging mode set on my phone. And if you haven't done that, go ahead and look it up on Google, or I can leave something in the description if I remember. But basically, if you have your phone in debugger mode and you have ADB installed, you can go ahead and interface with your phone directly through Godot by clicking this little button. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So if I click that, oh, and you'll see that Godot has caught me in my going way too fast by saying, hey, no main scene has been set. So what that means is that we need to set a main scene. So let's go ahead and select one, and we're going to select our demo scene. Now what this is going to do is it's going to go ahead and compile our project, and it's going to take a minute, so just go ahead and sit back and relax for a bit, and I will catch up with you guys when it's done. Alright, so now you'll see that Godot has opened. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click Get Image. So it seems that we have an issue, so what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to open up Command Prompt, and I'm going to type adb log cat. And you'll see I get all sorts of logs here. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and click Get Image and see if there's anything special here. Doesn't look like it, although I'm probably missing it. So let's go ahead and re-export this out and make this way bigger, way easier for me to see. There's something massive. There we are. Now let's go ahead and try re-exporting this. Let's let it load for a minute. Let's see if we can get this to work for us. All right. So now it's much bigger, but it doesn't look like it's helped any. So let's see why. Let's Control A, Control C, and let's just go ahead and stop that. All right, we'll open up Visual Studio Code. We're going to go ahead and investigate these logs. Let's type in Godot, Control F, Godot. Script error, invalid call, non-existent function, get gallery image. Well, that's not good. Let's see. In base J and I singleton. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. Let's go ahead and make this a little smaller so it doesn't take up most of my screen. And also we'll move this over a bit just to make it more reasonable. Oh, the first question is, did I do this correctly? Let's see, loading image, dictionary, get gallery, image plugin dot get gallery image. Let's see, so let's look at the documentation. See, I did a capital G instead of a lowercase g. That's my fault. All right, so let's do a lowercase g for get gallery image, and let's go ahead and try and re-exporting this. All right, so now let's re-export it. Hit get gallery image, and you'll see that we get this pop-up. Allow get gallery image from whatever to access your phone media and files on your device. Yes, go ahead and allow that. And you'll see that when I hit allow, it's going to do nothing. Now, the reason why is because you got to resend that request. So let's go ahead and resend that request. And you'll see that now suddenly you can see all of my different pictures and things like that. So what we're going to do is we'll go ahead and pick downloads, and we'll pick my background, let's say. And you'll see that it gets loaded into my image. Now you'll notice that's a little on the large side, so we probably don't want that, right? We want it to probably be a little bit smaller than that. We can go to our scene, so click on texture rect to kind of reopen this, and then say, yes, I want you to expand. So what that'll do is it will it'll scale the texture to fit its rectangle, so it'll actually scale to fit this. And then we'll want it to keep aspect centered, and what that's going to do is it's going to center that image to the screen. So if I click on the Android, it's going to re-export this. You'll notice when I click on get image and I choose my download and I choose my image here, it will now fit within that image bound. So it'll actually fit within this image bound here, which is great. So what we're gonna do, so now what if we want to, instead of allowing them to pick a gallery image, what if we wanted them to take a photo, right? So let's go back to the button and let's Control C and Control V it, or I guess Control D it. Sorry, I'm used to other game engines. And put get camera. Let's go ahead and hook that up. So let's disconnect that and connect it and go underscore get camera. And we will connect it to our node 2D. So now if we go back to our get image plugin, it has a get gallery images and a get camera images. So if we grab, so I'm just going to Control C that. If we grab this and we go ahead and paste that in, so that way we just have it, and we'll just do image plugin dot get camera image, and we'll say, hey, if the plugin exists, right? So image plugin, then we want you to go and get that camera in plugin, or that. Then we want to get that camera image, and then else print out that, hey, camera camera plugin or camera image not available, able to be taken. All right, now if we save this, when we go ahead and run this, and I'm going to actually make this texture rect much larger, so that way it actually, you guys can actually see the image. When we run this, now you're going to see my keyboard in a few seconds once this loads. So we're going to go ahead and click get camera, and you'll see allow this to take pictures, and I'll say while using the app, and you'll notice that it's going to go ahead and, if I hit it again, it's going to go ahead and allow me to click on my keyboard. So you can see now I have my camera application open. If I hit go, you'll see that it gives you a little checkbox and everything saying, hey, is this a good image? And if not, you can actually hit that retake button and it'll go ahead and let you retake it. But in this case, we're going to go ahead and hit the check mark, and you'll see that it loaded it into Godot. So it's really quite cool. Now, finally, what if we want to set the image resolution before we use it for whatever it is we're trying to use it for? So for instance, if you're trying to allow somebody to take a photo of their face, right, you don't necessarily need, if it's a 4K camera, the 4K image, right? Because that can really clog up your guys' servers, right? So what we can do is if we go into our little script section here and we scroll up, what we can do is we can go ahead and set our options. Now, this plugin has a few pretty cool options. So if we go var options and we go ahead and equal it to an object right here, and the cable's in my way. There we are. We can say quote image underscore format is equal to, I don't know, JPEG. And you can also set this as PNG if you'd like. And we need a comma afterwards. We'll say image width is equal to 300, let's say. Image height is equal to, I don't know, 300, let's say. And finally, let's say we want to make sure that we keep our aspect ratio correctly, right? So keep aspect, which if you don't know what an aspect ratio is it, and we'll make that true. What keep aspect ratio is it's the number of pixels to the bottom and the number of pixels to the top, and making sure that that's relative. So for instance, if you say image width and image height is 300, keep aspect ratio means that it's going to try to keep that 1-to-1 aspect ratio, right? Because this is equal to this. So if this was 300 and this was 600, then that aspect ratio would be 1-to-2, if that makes sense. So keep aspect allows you to say, hey, I want this to be the same, period. So I'm going to set this down to something really small, like 50 pixels, so you guys can kind of see what it's going to do to it. If I go ahead and save and I click on my texture rect and I just make this really big. Let's make this nice and large. All right. Now if I go ahead and I run this, okay, so it crashed my phone, so that's always good news. It turns out that A, for some reason it allowed me to compile with this unexpected assign issue, and B, we weren't actually sending the options in, so Godot just destroyed my phone. So what we're going to do is we'll change these into colons, because they're supposed to be colons, so let's go ahead and set them to colons here. There we are. And if you like spaces, you can add spaces. I probably should have, instead of getting rid of them. And then you need to pass in the options. So image plugin dot set options, and then pass in the options object here. And we're going to go ahead and take this texture rect and make it a little bit smaller, just in case that crashed my project. I don't know if it did, if that was the reason, but it did crash my phone, so I just don't want to take that chance a second time. All right, so now what we're going to do is we will hit the Android button and go ahead and run through and re-export this out. All right, so now if we hit get image and we hit allow and hit get image again, and then hit downloads and click on my image, you'll notice that it is way more pixelated than it was last time. You'll see that it's really pixelated. And the reason why is because it set it to be at 100 pixels or 50 pixels by 50 pixels, which is exactly what we wanted. So from here, you guys can go ahead and do all sorts of things, right? You can go ahead and get images and save them to your computer or save them to your phone and all sorts of stuff like that. So guys, that's all I have for you today. We talked about how to get an image from Godot, loading in the plugin. We talked about how to set its options. We talked about how to get it from a gallery. We talked about how to get it from a camera, and we talked about how to set that image when user selects it. So with this, you are able to, serialize it out to their system or serialize it out to a database or something like that. And I'll cover that in a future video. I have an idea of how to kind of save a image to a database. So I'll go ahead and show you guys how to do that. Maybe in the next one or maybe the one after that. And we'll kind of, see how that operates. But if you guys have any questions about how this operates, let me know in the comments below, and I'm more than happy to jump in and have a conversation with you guys. Now, this was a viewer request, and that's primarily how I do all of my content, is with you guys requesting videos and interesting ideas. So if you guys have any requests or anything that you guys would like me to cover, let me know, because I make these videos for you. And also, if you like these videos, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you dislike these videos, go ahead and hit that dislike button, because, what you guys want to see is important to me, because I'm here to make videos for you. But with that being said, Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see y'all next time. Thanks.